So hi, my name is Sol Rogers. I'm the founder of an immersive production facility based in St Albans in Hertfordshire and also now Los Angeles. And I've had the pleasure of working on all kinds of immersive projects over the last 10 years, from launching Jaguar's electric car through to letting people immerse themselves in Silicon Valley. And Jim and the team at Production Part asked me to talk a little bit about the lay of the land of the immersive industry and how it may, where it's being most useful now, and a little bit about where it may go in the future. And I'm really proud to kind of open up this session for Explore. So Rewind itself, we're very proud of the work we've been doing. We've been running for 10 years, and along that way, we've won multiple awards from Cannes to Beamers to Grand Prix at the Future of Storytelling. But I'm also very proud to be asked to chair a couple of advisory groups, one for BAFTA to look at how immersive technology and content works within the British Academy, and also Immerse UK, who you'll be hearing from this afternoon, which is a membership organisation to support the broader use of immersive technologies across multiple industries. And I write a little bit for Forbes. So the type of work that Rewind does really fits across three areas: activations and installations, which are actually a lot less during the pandemic, surprisingly. Entertainment and enterprise content. We make applications and software that lives on stores that kind of consumers and customers use every day. And then we do a lot of work with kind of generating additional value from those projects through social media and marketing, really the exhaustive innovation. And often they fit in kind of three main buckets, or four: virtual reality, augmented, and mixed reality, and beyond into things we don't even have words for yet. And really it's about levels of immersion. AR and MR are allowing you to bring digital worlds into your real world and overlaying them like visual effects, whereas virtual reality is replacing your reality completely and taking you somewhere else. I will skip playing our showreel because we don't have a huge amount of time. But the types of things you may have seen our work from is we launched Ghost in the Shell a few years ago for Scarlett Johansson's movie, and we created a VR vignette that lets you jump into that world and become part of it, take over the major and battle your way through the bad guys. It was a piece of additional content that came alongside the movie. We also worked with Red Bull to create what we call a mixed reality motorsport companion, the ability to put on a HoloLens, which is an AR set of glasses, and overlay the race happening right in front of you in your own home. We also were, for our sins, the company behind the VR episode of The Apprentice 2 years ago, which was the hardest client we ever had in our life. They brought the two teams to us, and we had to create whatever crazy ideas they had and launch them at Comic-Con the next day as if they were real games and real projects. Both of them were pretty terrible, but we did get them out the door. And the winning one, you were a space-going badger with a rainbow Mohican collecting energy drinks around the moon. I don't know if it will catch on and whether it will be top 10, but we were happy about what we delivered. So the reason I love immersive is it takes us beyond something that's been intrinsic for humanity over our entire evolution, which is storytelling. It's the way that we pass on knowledge and also to entertain each other. So we told stories around campfires. We then started to write those stories down onto cave walls to pass knowledge beyond generations. We then went to the written word, to the book, to the play, to the movie. And all of the mediums that we have require one key element, which is a suspension of disbelief, to be able to visualize something in our mind's eye and see another world in our mind. And the thing about virtual reality and why I love it so much is that it puts you in that world. It makes you see it for real. It makes you believe what you're seeing is actually around you. You don't have to use your mind's eye to imagine that other reality, but it's completely flipped on its head how you engage with that content and how you make that content really work for you. And we talk about the idea of story living quite regularly now. The immersive gamut, like I said a moment ago, is very broad. You go from physical reality, or RR, real reality, at one end, which is the world we're in, which is kind of immersive theatre. We go to augmented, where we're adding a digital character into that world alongside seeing the physical world around us. As we get to the other end of that scale, mixed reality is a very broad one. Maybe you'll have a completely virtual environment, but the human in it is a real character, and you're streaming them in from, let's say, a TV studio. And then you go completely digital, which is an animated world, and VR and beyond. The industry is really moving on very swiftly. It's had 5 or 6 years now to kind of get going. And the big shift most recently is that Facebook brought out the Oculus Quest a year ago, and then they've just released the Quest 2 as of last month, and it's just started shipping. And this headset is the right price point. It's around £300. It has very good content on it, which is worth playing and is valuable in itself. And it's beginning to build enough momentum to get that special thing of reach. You know, content creators, if you're going to make something, you need to make sure that there's an audience there. And this headset is really breaking ground to get us moving in the right way. The other thing that's happening is that the broader government and industries are realizing that immersive technology is not just an entertainment medium. It can be used across a whole gamut of industries. And actually during the pandemic has become more and more valuable. I thoroughly recommend it. Digital Catapult released the Immersive Economy Report last year, which showed across a various set of industries where immersive technology could be used and where it's most valuable. Training simulation seems to be the one which everyone is latching onto right now, which is fantastic. But as you can see, it's across everything from product design to marketing and sales and beyond. Beyond that, the PwC actually released a report back end of last year where they said by 2030, within the next 10 years, that the boost to GDP globally through immersive tech will be 1.5 trillion, which is a very large number and gets lots of investors very excited. And if you do want to dig into it, Jeremy over there has made an incredibly huge spreadsheet that they can dive into and show you the workings of it. But they're very bullish on this, that it will be an incredibly important thing for all industries and its use case across it, not only just entertainment. But really what we're looking at here is like the evolution of humanity's use of technology. We really have been harnessing it for an entire evolution, but the acceleration of the use of technology over this last generation's lifetime, literally in the last 50 years with the computers, is absolutely phenomenal. It's also a little unwieldy and a little scary because it moves faster than most of us, even at the front edge of it, know what's going on. And we're kind of stepping forward. And what we're looking at now, and it will be a very short period, is the fourth industrial revolution. Steam, electricity, computing and IT. And the fourth generally is wrapped around intelligence, cyber-physical, systems, IoT, and networks. And it's a pretty broad area, but that's that cyber-physical. It's the bringing of the digital and the physical together and the networks that kind of push that all together intrinsically. Now, we can't ignore the fact that we have just gone into a lockdown as of today, and we will be in one for another month. And the pressures that the pandemic and COVID has put onto every part of our life. And the sad thing is that because of it, we are seeing basically a cave formation of businesses, some that are going downwards, that are really struggling, and some that are going upwards and really being picked up. We have been pressurized to look at the virtualization, the digitization, the hybridization of all of our events globally to see what we can do to kind of use VR to help us reimagine all of these things. Now, sadly, the reach isn't there at this point. And we had everybody come to a knock on our door at the start of the pandemic, from sporting events to music events to conferences and beyond, saying, can you help us virtualize? And I said, well, sadly, all the people you want to speak to don't have a VR headset at this time. So you don't need a VR version of this, but we can look at the ways that you can and where the least friction is. And really it's about high quality broadcasts and conferences like this, where you can get face-to-face and you can use the tools that the people have in front of you. So specifically where VR and immersive is used in events is a pretty interesting thing. You're going to hear from Florian Bloch later, who I work with on a project called Weaver, which is looking at reimagining esports and the consumption of esports very specifically through an AI layer driving narrative. And on the back end is not only an application that works on mobile, but in VR, you can put your headset on and go and visit the event itself and see the sport play out with your friends and being very, very sociable with it. For Jaguar a few years ago, we launched their electric car in VR. And with that, we brought 70 people together in headsets from all over the world and allowed VR to be the backdrop, to basically be the theater of the space, to allow us to be unbounded by physics and also location. Now, this was very early and it wasn't in the peak of pandemic, but right now, the ability to make people feel present and see something in a different way is absolutely what people want right now. Within the event space and within gigs, Fortnite itself was a first-person shooter, but they have just started using it over the last year for other things because it's cross-platform and it has almost 100 million players globally. They realized that people can do other things within it. And this was the Travis Scott gig that they did very recently. It had, I think it was 11 or 14 million concurrent people watching the gig play out. Yeah. Going on with the pick and roll, younger flame in civil mode. Some people like the music, other people don't. The premise being that we had concurrent people sharing a virtual space and seeing a performance. They also have done big screen movie launches. They did the Star Wars launch and they recently did Tenet. But they've set up a permanent location in Los Angeles to make it the stop on the tour. So if you're going to have Coldplay doing, let's say, 20 stops in North America, the 21st will be actually within Fortnite. And I think that's an incredibly interesting approach to it. Outside of the music sector, virtual production is being used in movies all the time, and it's being brought up to speed mainly because of the impact of LED screens, but also within digital scouting. So this was the ability for the Lion King to scout out Pride Rock using digital camera technology and shoot the entire movie as if they were really there out on location. But that whole technology as well flipped into using LED screens allows you to bring all of your actors and actresses and performers to any location on the planet that you can create a digital asset for. And that technology itself is enabling anybody during this pandemic to really move forward to create content with a lot less people on location. A great case point of this going very well, Tomorrowland's big EDM conference in Belgium usually has a couple of 100,000 people going to it. They digitized the entire conference and they had 1 million people attend, spending $20 a ticket. It was very much a digital production with 5 feeds that you could view from, but the framing of it, of putting it into a virtual concert, I think is going to mean that as we go forward, these hybrid events are going to become more and more valuable to us. And Facebook obviously is behind a lot of this technology. Now they've just launched Horizons, which is allowing users to put a headset on and be taken to another world where you can craft the worlds, the levels, the planet that you want to see, and then invite your friends to kind of share it with you. I really recommend, if you haven't already, getting an Oculus Quest 2 and kind of jumping into this world. So I said earlier about training and where this kind of fits. The big stat that people jump into with training is because you believe what you see is real. That way that it builds memories is so much stronger than watching a video, seeing a PowerPoint, or reading a book. And the stats are quite high. It reduces training times by 40%, which is a huge amount, but it improves performance and kind of memory building by 70%. And so anybody with any sort of physical learning task or anything where they want to do training, even from like compliance to mechanical and anywhere in between, are really looking at VR to do that. Specifically, VW have an incredible set of training tools to teach all of the production line people about the products they're building, but also test out facilities before they even break ground with it. So I think it's pretty cool. The office of the future is nearby. It's not there yet, but all of us working from home with our virtual offices is pretty interesting. Facebook announced with the Oculus Quest 2 this idea of the digital office. They have an application which can bring in your PC or your Mac into the space and allow you to see those screens laid out in front of you. So you can have, in quotes, as many screens as you like, but also the ability to have that office wherever you're going to go, as long as inside the headset. It is a little early, but that viewpoint into where it could go to make it a space where you can actually do meaningful work, not only entertainment, I think is just around the corner. And one of the companies that's pushing into that space is spatial.io. They've made their platform free during the pandemic for anyone to use. It works on desktop, in VR, and on mobile. and is trying to bring a collaborative working space together for all of us to kind of work side by side. AR is absolutely around us. We just can't see it. It's like a hidden world, and you need a device to kind of bring it to life. So Pokemon Go broke new ground to get us all understanding that there's a Pokemon outside my house. But everybody else can see that Pokemon at the same time. That digital layer exists. It's basically real-time visual effects. And they made a huge amount of money on their next project with Harry Potter's Wizards Unite. Minecraft brought out an application as well, where you can build your Minecraft contraptions anywhere on the planet and anyone else can see them. And it's really beginning to use the world as a digital canvas for us to tell our stories and make our worlds on it. Magic Leap are one of the leaders in taking AR from on our phone to putting it into a pair of glasses that we can wear. And once that AR is always on everywhere, it'll allow us to see those worlds around us as if they're really are there. Microsoft have been breaking ground in this area for a long time with their HoloLens device, and it's probably the most finished product that you can get, but it is $3,000 to $4,000. So it is an incredibly early adopter at this point, but is making a difference in enterprise. This film was launched 5 years ago now around HoloLens, and I think it's incredibly interesting to see what they've done by taking this technology forward. If you look at what they did here, this was all technology demos of what a HoloLens could do, or what mixed reality could do in your real world. The idea of having a digital object on your computer, which you could also see on your desktop, which overlays onto the physical product, obviously could help increase rapid manufacture and manufacturing immensely. But it has some really interesting stuff within it. If we go back to the first little phase here, so this overlay in our kitchen, the premise being that, the smart fridge overlays what's inside it, there's the weather, and then there's a screen on this wall. And the thing that really resonated, and I think people are missing, is that it's going to be incredibly disruptive for so many industries. If I can have a screen of any size, of any resolution, on any surface, and as many as I want for no cost, that is going to completely disrupt Sony, LG, Samsung's selling of televisions. The idea that those black screens are going to live in our house over the next 5 to 10 years is kind of being replaced. They're obviously going to be able to sell us a pair of glasses, but it's going to change everything about how we engage with physical products and what those products can be. This was a demo from Leap Motion for their North Star product. And I show this to basically show that the idea of a folding phone, or even the idea of a mobile phone, is kind of being replaced pretty swiftly. If you know where my head is and you know where my hands are, you can then represent a digital surface that is attached to that in any way you like, and it can be completely adaptable. The canvas that is as rich as a desktop PC and as complex as the internet is going to become part of our world. Google talks about spatial computing as the thing. Other people are beginning to talk about the metaverse, and it's really about bringing that world together. And also digital screens as well, same as spatial. So where next? All this technology is rounding around. It is bringing us towards this complexity of bringing the metaverse together. And the metaverse is a terminology in itself that is very, very hard to define. But really, it's about bringing the complexities and the richness of the internet to be contextually aware around us every day. But we need to get our computers, to get ourselves that digital richness, we need a few technologies to line up, and they're just about there. First of all, we need to give the machines eyes. Facebook announced a specific set of headsets that does 3D scanning, and they're using it as a kind of an R&D tool. But the idea to give the computer the understanding of the world around us, we need to give it cameras or scanners. Tesla is quite interesting that all of their cars are always 3D scanning everywhere they go. They have the richest map of the entire world and can tell you where any pothole is. And they need it to train their cars to drive themselves. And with Apple's recent announcement of LiDAR in their smartphones, which is a 3D scanning technology, every single phone is going to be building up rich, very detailed scans and maps of our environments, but it needs to be able to overlay rich context. We also need to allow it to listen. Again, this is an Apple product. Their headphones quietly announce that they can do spatial audio and positional, because the headsets themselves know how they are moving and which direction they're pointing in, and they're always listening to the world. And we need to allow them to have a voice themselves to be able to speak to us. And voice synthesis has absolutely been nailed on the head. 2 years ago, they were 78% accurate, which is pretty awful. Now they're 98% accurate, if not beyond. Cortana, Alexa, Siri, you name it. And it's pretty phenomenal to hear the quality of those voices and also how they speak to us. And the final thing being that we need to give them a face. They need to be able to see and speak to us. Humanity likes to communicate with other humans. And this is a demo that Magic Leap put out about 1.5 years ago, where this is Mika, and she's running in real time on their headset. And she, in my opinion, is just the other side of the uncanny valley. She seems believable to me, and I think she seems believable to me. And so the ability, if we can give her vision and give her audio, and she can speak to us and represent, an artificial intelligence and be able to communicate with us, is a pretty exciting place of where we're going to give the machine everything it needs. So the metaverse itself, these layers, this world that lives beyond our vision, which is kind of like magic. And Magic Leap renamed, the metaverse to be the Magicverse. But really, it's going to have the richness and complexity of the internet with the idea of the apps on our phone. So at some points, it could be about directions to move around. Other times, it could be to see air quality. Other times, it could be to see Pokemon Go or my virtual pet dragon that will be with me every single day. And the types of worlds and experience that we can create with a digital layer onto our world are kind of unbounded and are super exciting. And where it steps from is that Apple's technology in their iPhone really is laying out to go to something like this. The noise around them hiring, recruiting and building, and the technology quality that they would be able to bring to it. Once we do get those glasses that allow us to see that world that's always there, in our mind's eye, that we can only see in our imagination, that we can then drive through spatial computing and technology, is going to be so exciting and change how we live, how we educate, how we do work, and anything in between. A couple of examples. This is what the Mona Lisa and how we would like to see, and this is how we do see her, behind bulletproof glass with 400 other tourists, or hopefully when we post-pandemic we go there. But if we had a perfect 3D scan of her, a digital twin, we could actually have her in our homes, in our glasses, and have digital artwork. The issue then is about value and worth. Humanity really only values things which are scarce. If there's one of something, or if there's a small amount of gold or anything else. But how do we make these products valuable to us? Well, it's quite easy. You just put a little bit of blockchain on the back to power some serial numbers, and you could have a run of Mona Lisas or whatever you want it to be to gain access to it. I also like the idea of these reality distortion fields. So I may be driving a absolute beige box or an autonomous box, but I can basically pay for a skin, an avatar, an overlay to my beige box that other people will see. So they'll see the digital adornments or the wrap, and it doesn't have to be a physical thing. So I could replace it with a different looking car or color, but I also could put giant flames off the back of it, or wings, or anything I wanted to, as an overlay to the real world. And it steps us to this kind of final layer, and it very much fits with Production Park. The events we do about physical events where we bring people together are going to get hybridized, not only for the guests that come to it, but also for the performers themselves. And this was the League of Legends World event last year, 2019, which really had the blend of a physical band and a digital band performing exactly the same time. This was all done for the cameras in real time, but it was only a heartbeat away from being on their phones or on the glasses that everybody wears in the audience. Quite like the music as well. So that's why I often say that I think mixed reality is the future of humanity. I think it's happening around us, and our digital self absolutely, we represent ourselves as digital avatars every day on social media. It's just about bringing that digital layer and making it part of our everyday as the glasses that are coming, and we have that technology right now. So thanks so much for listening. I know it was a whistle-stop tour, but I'm happy to take any questions or answer them on the panel later. Thanks, Jim.
Cheers. Cheers, Sol. If you can just unshare your screen, that'd be great. Brilliant. Apologies again for the little hiccup earlier on. I can hear you now, which is great. Thanks so much for that. That was absolutely fantastic. Really fascinating run through of both where we've kind of come through and also a bit of an insight into where we're going with this sort of stuff as well. So we've got time. Well, we've got time for a couple of questions here. So Matt has just asked, what VR experience would you show to a non-believer just to kind of get them to see the potential of VR?
I'd actually, the one I do use regularly is just the First Steps application on the Oculus Quest. It's a very simple, it has 3 mini games as part of it, and really guides people, holds their hand through what the technology does and some of the opportunities for there. And that first time is a bit bewildering. So yeah, First Steps on the Oculus, I would recommend as anybody's first. Absolutely.
Great, thank you. Right, we're going to move on.